Welcome to See What She Can Do Conversations, the podcast. I'm your host, Tina Finelli, and I'm here with Lisa Dunbar, our co-host.
Hi, guys.
We're here today with Jess Silver and Dimitri Giankoulas. I hope I pronounced that properly.
Hello.
Hi, Jess. You there?
Hi, everybody.
Awesome.
Hi.
Jess is a communications professional. She's a medical writer. She's an editor and a recently published author. We're super excited to talk a bit about her book today. She's also a motivational speaker and adaptive fitness consultant and coach. I'm going to talk a bit about that today as well. Jess uses her experience as a person with cerebral palsy to coach individuals with similar neurological conditions on the importance of using fitness as a means of building capacity to manage conditions like CP, but she's also an extraordinary individual who's made a huge impact of people across all kinds of cultures, abilities. Me in particular, I've just read her book and I've been so impacted by your story, Jess. So we're super excited to dig into that. And Dimitri's on the line. Dimitri's the owner of Pure Motivation Fitness out of Vaughan, and he was a big part of Jess's life and a bit of a mentor. So she'll talk a little bit about that, and we'll have a conversation and get the ball rolling. Okay.
Good.
So
Thanks so much, Tina, for that introduction.
You're welcome. So Jess, as I alluded to earlier, you've just launched a book called Run an Uncharted Direction, and I'm deep into it right now and super stoked by your story. And what really strikes me the most is your ability to take what was seen as impossible and make it possible. Like, you truly are charting your own path, and that resonates completely with us. It's just amazing. So talk to us a little bit about your journey with sport and how it's impacted your life, and a bit of your backstory.
So sport has been instrumental. Sport and fitness has been instrumental to my life story since the very beginning. Since I was about 5 years old, since I was 5 years old, I've been watching basketball, and I'm an avid fan and aficionado of the game. I started watching the game and learning it alongside my father, who was the captain of his team in university and high school and back in Ukraine, where he came from. And he taught me all the rules, and it went from watching the game just for entertainment and spending time together to me becoming essentially enamored with the game and what I like to call having a full court love affair with the game, which I do mention in my book. And I really feel as though basketball and sports are a metaphor for my life, and they've become a metaphor that I use for other individuals' lives as well. Sport has allowed me to make sense of the things that didn't make sense to me in my life, meaning the physical adversity that I have had to face because of CP, and also a lot of the bullying and adversity that I faced throughout school and even into the workforce later in my life. And I always found myself very strongly relating to athletes because of their preparation and recovery journey. I feel like I have the same exact journey in my fitness and in my regimen that I do to keep myself functioning well and being able to do everything that I do. So sport for me is really, I know it might sound cliche, but it's like everything. It's a passion that I have, and it's also a way for me to understand the things that are really difficult sometimes to understand, to make sense of why I have had certain hardships in my life, and to really understand that these hardships, yes, they exist, but they have made me a lot stronger, and they've allowed me to develop this philosophy that we need the adversity in order to have an advantage in life.
Well, I think one of the most amazing stories I got out of your book, it really kind of stuck with my heart, was this notion of being a part of the game, however that looks like for you. And you kind of you carving your own path to it just to be able to play with everybody else. I love the story of you. I think you were in grade 2 and a soccer game. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that story?
Sure. So, as I said, the love for being part of the game goes way, way back in my life. And that particular story that you're alluding to did happen in grade 2. I was in elementary school, and I always hung out with the boys. You can ask Dimitri, I still do. There, I befriended these 2 boys in school. It was a larger group, but I was very close with these 2 boys, and they happened to be cousins. And it was winter, and they wanted to play soccer. And of course, I'm in a chair. And at that time, I didn't have my power chair. I only had a manual chair. And we kind of looked at each other, as kids do when you're little. For a brief few minutes, we were kind of like, the boy's name was Philip, who I mentioned in the book as well. He looked at me and he was kind of like, well, we looked at each other and we questioned how I would be able to be part of the game. And he, instead of saying like, will you be able to play? I went into what we called the goalposts. They were just like pieces of wood. But when you're kids, you make any sort of wooden post a goalpost.
Exactly.
Because that's just what you do. And so I was standing in front of those wooden posts, and rather than saying like, how are you going to play? Are you sure you're going to be able to play? He positioned my chair and he goes, is here okay? In terms of like the angle I was standing at to become goalie in net.
Right.
And just like that, that's how I became the goalie in net. And I believe that story really elicits who I am, because as I was telling you before, and as Dimitri well knows, yes, I do have my physical challenge, but I never let it define who I am. And I sometimes joke that it's there and it's more obvious than some other people's challenges because I am in a wheelchair, but sometimes like it's almost like I don't see it. And so other people don't see it by virtue of that, because I was just concerned about how I'm going to play. And so we just put my chair in the goalpost and I became the goalie.
That's amazing.
That's awesome.
That's amazing. I love that story simply because you're just playing the game. And, if we could all bring ourselves back to lives in grade 2, things were just so much simpler. You just make things happen, right? You just make it work.
Yeah.
So talk to us a little bit about how you train daily to manage adversity and how you kind of jumped into the space of adaptive fitness, what that even is, and how it's helped you and, be part of a community and helped other people within your community.
Okay, well, I have to break this question down because it's like a 4-layered question.
It is a 4-layered. So let's start with how you kind of got into fitness.
So I can't start this conversation without alluding to the wonderful gentleman who's on the line.
Yay! Let's talk to Dimitri. Yay!
Dimitri Giankoulas. I would not be where I am in fitness and in life without you. And that might sound cheesy and it might sound cliche to some people, but it's very true. I had this passion I wouldn't call it a passion at first. I had the desire to constantly get better and improve since I was a kid, because I've always been having to engage in therapeutic protocols in order to improve my physical condition. And so this is something I was used to. And they looked like training regimens, but they weren't. They consisted of alternative medicine therapies, such as massage therapy. I've had acupuncture done to me since I was about 4 years old, and different types of physical therapy. That's what largely my life looked like up until my teenage years. But it was something that I knew I had to do, and I was always committed to doing everything to improve my condition, because I'm a believer that although I have my condition and it's not going anywhere, I believe that I can really improve and hopefully one day be able to walk with some sort of assistive device. That's the goal. And when I was About 15 years old, Dimitri walked into my life, and it has never been the same since then. So
how did that
I've had to
happen,
do
Dimitri?
that.
What does that look like from your side when you walked into her life? How did your worlds
Jess walked
collide?
into my life at a point where I was just starting my business on my own. We currently are running a personal training boutique fitness studio in Vaughan for 11 years. And previous to that, I was in the corporate world for Bally's and Extreme, and I worked for many other people. But when I left and I was on my own, I remember driving my Honda Accord with a big sticker on the back saying in-home personal training. And I would drive around to homes in the area, and I would put flyers in everyone's door because, my wife was pregnant and I had to get my life going. I left the big corporate world because I was tired of being a slave to their program. So what was unique was I myself, like Jess, we don't understand the answer or when someone says it's not possible, we don't understand. That's not our vocabulary. So when I was driving, I got a phone call from her mom, and she said, "Hi, how are you? Do you do in-home training?" I said, "Yes, 100%. We specialize in body type, blah, blah, blah." She goes, "I have a unique situation. My daughter has cerebral palsy, and we've been calling a few different coaches and different trainers, and they weren't really sure if they want to work with us." And right off the bat, I'm like, that's odd. Why would someone not want to work with a client, regardless of what the challenge may be? So I said to her, "Yeah, no problem. I'll come over and I'll have an assessment." And I had no clue what to expect. I just figured, you know what, I'm a very confident Taurus, and we're gonna figure it out. And when I met her for the first time, a lot of reality kind of set in, and a lot of what I thought was stresses and challenges in my life seems to me like excuses and complaints. And I said, "Wow, like Jess, I can't even remember. You were 15 years old? 16? Yeah. And I'm like, wow, I go, this girl's got more drive and determination than 5 bodybuilders put together." And at the moment I was competing and I had this, big, strong macho mindset. And I'm like, this is crazy. Like we have to do something. Even if we don't know, we're going to find a way. So I met her mom and I said, "You know what, give me some time. Let me work with my team. Give me a few days to go back and do some research and see what we can do to come back. But definitely it's something that I'd like to take on as a challenge." And I remember speaking to my wife, and she said to me, "Well, is this something you think you can do? Like, can you make a difference?" And I'm a firm believer that attitude is everything. Our tagline was created by meeting Jess, and that's what we use in our business now. Attitude is everything.
Jess, I hope you're taking a cut of revenues on that every time that sentence comes out. Well, you know what, and you can see why the two of you have connected, because you both have the same philosophy for living, right? So that's awesome.
Yeah, I just kept getting blown away that no matter what challenge she was in, whether it be physical limitation, whether it be mindset, whether it be location, ergonomics of the home, and us trying to set up an obstacle course in her bedroom and then using her stairs. And I just said, you know what, this girl's got way more drive than me. And if I stop or give up regardless, then I'm not a coach and I'm not who I am. And I think the more we started working with her, the more I started growing as a coach, saying, you know what, as much as I want to be the one to take on this role and be the Spartan, I got to look at being a proper businessman and getting more brains involved. So I had Vladimir get involved, and then I had, other coaches. And then as we progressed, and then we had Daniel, who Daniel so far has been a godsend, because this guy is not only our fitness director and our head kinesiologist, but he's actually designed the training program that Jess is working with and come up with different theories and different processes and different strategies and different, methodologies over the years, which has got Jess to, not only from an aesthetic standpoint, if you look at the girl, she's got, more ripped arms than, half the guys I know.
Oh yeah, her arms are definitely fierce. You have awesome arms, Jess.
She can do pull-ups, she can, do push-ups, she's able to balance. And the things that she's done, I believe, don't come from just her mindset of, I want to be like everyone. I think she's got a unique cell in her body, which is just, it's a not giving up cell, which just says, no, I'm not going to give up. And this, I have more. And from the moment I met her, I told her, you got so much drive in you, girl. Like, you need to do more. And I remember from like maybe the first year, I told her, you got to write a book, man. You got to,
there you go.
I said, your future is not in writing stories, or your future is not in, working in a company. Your future is to empower people. I don't care if it's an athlete that can do the decathlon, or I don't care if it's someone in a wheelchair, or it's someone in school that's 5 years old. Your duty in life is to give your special talent back. And
Jess, is your heart doing what ours is doing? Because I'm like, oh, I love this. It's so awesome. And it's such a great representation of who you are.
I'm trying not to cry.
I am too.
Trying not to.
I was feeling the exact same way.
and I really need to interject here when Dimitri has done his wonderful praises and paragraph here. I want to interject because I want to talk a little bit about the evolution of the training that has taken place with me. And I really want to talk about Dimitri was the instrumental vehicle to make this all possible. But this conversation can't happen without mentioning Daniel, because he has changed my life, and he's like a big brother to me that I never ever had. And we understand each other. He understands me emotionally and physically in ways that nobody does. So I need to talk a little bit about.
Well, let's do it. Let's jump right into it. Tell us a little bit about kind of what that, first day looked like and how things evolved over time.
Well, it's hard. It's very hard to go back because we've been training for 9.5 years together, which really feels like a lifetime. And when you start and you train for so long together, you really grow together. I've been through so much with Dan, and I've seen his evolution as a kinesiologist and as the GM of the company. And I feel like hopefully, I provide support to Dimitri and Dan in ways that hopefully, they feel that others don't, or at least I do it uniquely. But I have to say that when I started training in-home and when I started training with Dan, it was all trial and error. And a lot of what we did was they were simple, simpler than we're doing now, because now we're doing more high performance functional training. And I'll talk about it, but they were more functional, very basic movements. And I'll never forget the day Dimitri first walked into my room. He was like, well, can you walk for me? Can I see how you walk across the room? And I can only walk, and I can only still walk to this day with assistance, but it was very difficult for me and fatiguing to do it. And he had me do a few squats, I think, against the wall or holding on to his hands. I can't remember. And it was immensely challenging for me to do. And when I started training with Dan at the gym, a lot of what we did were hip extensions and isometric movements at first. And we were working on building up my strength. But we started obviously with like lower weights, and a lot of the movements, most of the movements, I had to use him for support. And now when we talk about today, 9.5 years later, I'm doing exercises like TRX squats by myself, holding onto the TRX, or goblet squats, standing at the wall and holding onto a weight and squatting, as well as sandbag squats, and also doing movements like the hip hinge to get myself to learn how to properly deadlift. Hopefully one day that's our goal that we're now working on. Not to mention also full body pull-ups, which, as Dimitri said, I've met guys at the gym and they're like, wait, what? You can do pull-ups? Like, I can't even do 5. And I can rhyme off, when I'm not injured on a good day, I can rhyme off at least 15 to 20 pull-ups in one set.
Good on you.
And
that's awesome. I'm up to about 2, and I've been 7 years in. So I'm obviously need to start training with Dan or you, Jess, so I can figure out how to go beyond 2.
And one of the exercises that we were more recently, I hit a PR on was doing the seated row with 130 pounds. And that's about triple my weight almost.
Wow, good on you. That's amazing. We're going to interrupt and take a quick commercial break. We're going to thank our sponsors, and we're going to be right back. So hang tight, guys, and
stay on the line.
Stay on the line.
Yeah.
Hi there, Brad Jones here, or Sensei Brad Jones, as I'm known in the dojo. Great to be sponsoring this podcast. Our dojo has just reopened on Main Street after several months of being closed and running Zoom classes. All the protocols are in place. All the cleaning regime is working well, and members are coming back. And surprisingly, many new students have decided to start this month. So I'm looking forward to more and more coming in, and stay safe out there, everyone. Thanks.
Okay, welcome back to the show. We're here with Jess Silver and Dimitri Giankoulas. So, folks, we were just talking about Jess's foray into fitness and some of the great personal bests that she's been achieving. One of the great stories you have in your book, Jess, is around how you learned to connect your mind to your body. And that really hit a string for me. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So, one more thing that I wanted to say before we ended off the last question was that with Dan, when I train with him, I really learned that the way that his philosophy of training with me is, it's not if you can do something, it's let's figure out an approach for you to be able to do something. So with him, I never feel like, I'll even give you an example. So this week and the last couple of weeks, I'm coming back from an injury, and there's lots of things that I feel limited, which I usually do, that I can't do right now. For example, pull-ups and everything upper body, I have to be very careful and the seated row, because I have tears in my shoulder. And so not only now am I limited with my lower body because of CP and limitations, but I'm also limited in my upper body now because of injuries. And when I told him that first, and I said, well, how are we going to be able to do what it is that we do? He said, don't worry, if we have to work backwards, we always seem to do that a little bit, but we'll just figure out a way to go, take a few steps back, regain your strength, and then be able to do the exercises, hopefully, that you were able to do. So with him, it's not a question of how or if you're going to do something, it's just figuring out the approach. And he's like, I always tell him that he's amazing at figuring out these consistent ways of challenging me. And then he comes back at me and says that, well, I challenge him to think even further outside the box.
Well, it's that perseverance through adversity, right? That you talk about.
Yeah. And I was also going to say that, like, what a great partnership, right? Because he knows you well enough to know, like, you want to do it. You want to, keep doing the things that you love to do and finding a way to do it. That's an ideal partnership. And it goes both ways, right? That's awesome.
And it's been instrumental to both of us. Mm-hmm. So what I'm going to say about the mind, I'm not going to get extensively into it. In my book, I get extensively into it. But for me, I realized many years ago when I started doing yoga and when I started really admiring these professional athletes, like one of them is Amy Purdy, who's a Paralympic snowboarder who uses meditation, and also Novak Djokovic uses meditation in his tennis regimens, as well as also the late Kobe Bryant, who I love with all my heart. And if you read my book, you'll understand just how much I really loved and admired him and use his mama mentality philosophy in mine every day. But for me, I understood more than anything through their stories and through my own that I need to have my mind very sound and very strong in times when there's turbulence, which is for me every day, because my challenges start from getting up in the morning. I need assistance to get up out of bed and to go to transfer into any position. To go to the washroom, I can't do it on my own. I need assistance with it. And for a lot of people, I think that sort of gets glossed over because, I've been joking lately saying that I make this whole thing look really easy. Mm-hmm. And as I said, I don't allow the challenge to consume me. It just is what it is. And I figure out a way and an approach. And I need to shout out to my parents here because I know that I would not be who I am if it wasn't for their instrumental ways of parenting myself and my sister and teaching us that we can do everything through hard work. And we really need to open our minds to as many approaches. So I think for me, the mindfulness aspect and keeping my mind and meditating and visualizing my goals is all part of that. And I think that the central key to that is really when things get painful and when things seem to feel, I don't like using this word because I don't believe in it, but when things seem to feel impossible, I need to jump over that hurdle, which I've been visualizing. I've actually been visualizing myself jumping over a hurdle that sprinters or track athletes do in order to get to the next one. And that's how I go about my everyday. So I've been using breathing techniques and visualization techniques, also keying into some of the techniques that, for example, like I mentioned, Kobe Bryant used to, and the athletes, and seeing myself similar to them. I'm not like them. I'm not saying I'm a competitive elite athlete. But
you're stronger than them, Jess.
Yeah,
you keep forgetting that.
I was going to say, I think there is some competitiveness in you. I'm not sure about that.
I disagree on that front for sure.
Athletes are badass because they can be, and they don't have the initial or the first challenge of just standing up and saying, I'm going to run. So an athlete can do that. Anybody can do that. So you are beyond what they have because you're dealing with 7 layers of challenge. You got to remember that.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for that. I really appreciate it. And I think something, and I have to thank you because you're very good at reminding me when I seem to forget that because I'm also very humble and I'm very modest. So I'll forget about some of the things that I've accomplished or the things that I've done because for me, I think they're pretty minor. And it's been kind of crazy, even in training, when Dan says to me, never forget that you've now published a book and not many people have. And, when I stop and think about that and when I stop and think about where my nonprofit organization has led me, Flex for Access, and where my fitness journey has led me, it's honestly surreal and unbelievable to think about all of the connections and people that I've met because of this passion that we share for fitness and sport. And something that I wanted to say before we get into the next question, because I know we're running low probably on time, is that even the title of my book is interesting and I feel almost like an anomaly for my story. But hey, I consider myself an anomaly, so that's nothing really new to me and to people that know me as well as Dimitri does, for example, or Dan. It's called Run an Uncharted Direction. And lately, for the last couple of weeks, I've been thinking some people, when they probably pick up my book and they start reading it, they probably wonder why I called it Run if I can't even run physically in the conventional way of running. But I called it that because I found that I always seek the alternate path, the uncharted path, and the path that others, there's a chapter in my book called Hunting in Silent Forests, and that's alluding to the fact that most people would not go into that silent forest where no one else has been to carve out their niche. And I, like Kobe Bryant, who I mentioned in that chapter, do that. So I feel like the title encompasses that and encompasses my story. And I feel like it synonymously goes along with your message of see what you can do, because what your business and your company does is features female entrepreneurs who do things in the unconventional way or in an unconventional arena as they are females and athletes.
You know what? That's a beautiful segue, and that's why we connect so well, Jess, because we really are all about making sure that women of all cultures, of all capabilities, of all communities, all have access to moving their bodies, because we know it has an impact on so much more in our lives. It gives us a sense of community, a sense of belonging, a sense of achievement, capability, confidence, all those amazing things that come with moving our bodies and physical activities. So I think that's why, we love having you as part of our community, Jess, and you can check out Flex for Access on our athlete advisor, which is our online business directory, because you're just such a great impact on so many organizations. You talk about Flex for Access as being your not-for-profit. Do you want to talk a little bit about what that is and how it kind of relates to fitness?
Of course. And then I'd like to get Dimitri's perspective on some of the work that the organization has done, and hopefully some of the things that we can do together collaboratively with Flex for Access in the future.
That idea.
So
yep.
Flex for Access is a nonprofit organization that I founded 5.5 years ago. It started as a social media awareness campaign. And again, it started out of this notion of realizing that I have CP, and I come at this arena of fitness and sport from a unique lens, if you want to call it that, because not many people with my condition and with the adversity that I face would find themselves as active or desire to be as active as I do. There are people, but not many. And I wanted to create awareness around CP, but what I found was that most of the organizations that were out there if they were already doing it, they were doing it from a more, I don't want to say negative, but they were doing it from a different lens and a different perspective of, this is the condition of CP, this is how it's defined, here are the assistive devices that we need to provide people with in order to support them in their condition. But what I did and what I wanted to do with Flex for Access is to look at how I can bring awareness to the condition. Yes, its limitations, spasticity, for example, how spasticity affects in every individual differently, and how it coarsely affects physical movements differently for each person and motor function. But what I wanted to further do was to present it in the lens of fitness and sport with this notion that if one has the ability to be introduced to trainers and professionals, fitness professionals who are extremely qualified, like I'm blessed to know, like those from PMF, if one has the ability to have that in their lives, fitness needs to be used in order to be a building block to create new potential for individuals that have physical limitations. Mm-hmm. And that's what Flex for Access does. Flex for Access is a registered nonprofit organization that facilitates opportunities for adaptive fitness and sport promotion for individuals that have physical challenges like CP or MS, for example, to be able to engage with fitness-based training. So just yesterday, the organization has agreed to facilitate training at a clinic that has fitness-based programming for a young woman to continue with her training regimen, because she feels that, and Flex for Access has previously helped her before, she feels that it will help her physically. Fitness has helped her manage seizures.
That's amazing.
For example, and also has helped her to develop the mental toughness that I speak of. And so Flex for Access started as a social media awareness campaign to get individuals to use the hashtag Flex for Access in posts of themselves on social media, flexing their bicep in support of the organization to deconstruct the notion of limitation and having CP or having a physical challenge, but then also showcase individuals training, be it high performance training or just jogging or any kind of movement, using the hashtag Flex for Access to show that fitness and sport is instrumental in helping everyone live fit, active, and healthy lives. And I wanted to hear from Dimitri as to what he thinks about Flex for Access. And to date, we've helped over 100 people learn, probably more now, about the importance of adaptive fitness promotion. Before COVID, pre-COVID, I was going into rehabilitation centers and different establishments, gyms, working with gyms and studios to discuss what it is that adaptive fitness is. So essentially what it is basically taking a mainstream fitness regimen and looking at how that fitness regimen can be adapted or scaled in order to suit the individual's physical limitations, but still have them do exercises like, for example, sandbag squats.
Yeah.
So it's still doing functional training, just adapted to the individual's needs.
It's amazing.
Well, that's awesome. You know, and I CrossFit in Aurora, and we have we definitely have adaptations based on on skill, based on age, based on whatever it is. So the notion of adaptability seems to be increasing, but we love the notion of you making sure that that's broader and that fitness is available for everybody. I mean, it should be, right?
And I love your story, Jess. And I think I was saying to you earlier, I have a family member who has CP as well, and is fortunate to have two parents who have brought him up. He's 18 now, and he's been in my life from the beginning. He's my godson, and his parents have a mantra of yes, there's a disability and there are some limitations, but they shift the lens as you are and as you're trying to do in everything that you do. So let's talk, the limitations are there. Of course they're there. I have CP, he has CP, but his lens, he shifts the lens as you are doing but let's talk about the abilities. Let's challenge the strength. And he knows he has to be physically active in order to make his body stronger and manage his CP. But it's, and like you, it's the determination and a shift of the lens to let's talk about the abilities. And I love to, I've learned a lot about adaptive fitness, which isn't, I want to use the word mainstream term. So I'm so thrilled to have you guys here because I think it's amazing. I think that voice for adaptive fitness could be so much louder because there are so many, I think of Max, who's got CP and a physical disability, but there's also limitations. I've done a lot of work with Special Olympics. There's kids who have things that may or may not be as visible, but it's amazing, amazing. So thank you.
And Dimitri, we'd love to hear you kind of jump in on how, how adaptive fitness has kind of made its way into your organization and the impact you feel you can have, it can have actually even beyond the person that you're training, to your whole facility and your community.
Your team.
Yeah.
Well, I think the whole point of whenever she does show up, I like walking up to people that have complaints and are bitter, and sometimes they're on the treadmill and I'll say hi to them and I haven't lost weight, and and I look at them and I point to Jess, I'm like, really? I'm like, what's your problem? You're having a problem dieting? Okay, sure. And then I'll remind people, even when I do videos with Jess, that we all have problems. Mm-hmm. And my mom taught me this at a young age. I come from a bit of a dysfunctional family background, single parent, blah, blah, blah. But she said to me at a young age, there's going to be people worse than you. There's going to be people very better than you. And you're in the middle. So acknowledge that, swallow it. So the fact that Jess has not taken the negative route or the route where, the pity party, feel sorry for myself. I know a lot of people who don't have physical limitations. I know a lot of people who have a lot of wealth. They're bitter, they're miserable. Anytime, I call Jess, she's in a great mood. Anytime she comes in here, she'll see me because I go through highs and lows. I'm human. I got a business, I got a family, I got members, and I'll be in my office and sometimes I'm in my laptop and she'll, knock on my door and I open it up and I look at her and she'll just smile. And I'm like, wow, I stopped and I tell myself, are you for real? Were you just sitting in your office stressed out over things that you call stress, work, employees, clients, payables? We got to really be open-minded and we got to tell ourselves constantly that, happiness is a decision. That's the new tattoo I'm getting this month.
Love it.
And it sparked from, the attitude is everything, but you choose every life and every day to be upset or be happy. And you choose to walk the life you do. And, yesterday I got a call at 11:30 at night from my cleaners, and our hot water tank busted, and there's water gushing everywhere.
Oh boy.
And I came in here and I'm dealing with this morning, and I tell myself, you know what? You choose the attitude you want to have. And Jess has always chosen the attitude of positivity, mind over matter, possibility, opportunity versus, inability. So when she's in the gym, not only is it motivating for members to watch, not only is it motivating for the coaches to watch, because coaches deal with the psychological warfare of, we're trying to help the client lose weight. We see them 3 times a week. They're gone for the other 178 hours of the week. We don't know what they're doing. But I think what Jess has designed for Flex for Access and what it's going to grow into the next 2 to 3 years is something that's going to be big and mainstream. And I think that my goal for this, with my vision, would be to one day see gyms that have a full mixture of bodies, able bodies, bodies that have physical limitations, bodies that have challenges, bodies of people who have have suffered burns, and they have insecurities. And I know there's places for people with burns to go to. When I mean burns, I mean if they suffered some kind of like a fatal full body burn and there's scars on their face. I'm seeing a vision of a place, and this is Jess's, is her path is to open up and remove all these I don't want to call them these limitations, but maybe they're not norms. Like, you go think of a gym, you think of people going, working out, training, running on a treadmill, but you don't think of people moving around with a wheelchair. You don't think of people training with an amputated limb. You don't see people training with some kind of difference in terms of physical, aesthetic limitation challenge. And I think the more Jess pushes, because that's what she's an inner Taurus. She doesn't know it, but she's got Taurian traits to her. The more she pushes and keeps on seeking for people to latch onto, like a rock climber that climbs a mountain, they latch on with those clips.
Yeah.
And as long as Jess can keep clipping on people and saying, hey, I got a message for you, open your ears and listen, there's going to be that one athlete, that one client that's super wealthy, that one, gym owner that's trying, someone that's going to say, hey, I really like this a lot, and I want to help you even more. And that's where I think it's going to be even a broader spectrum, where it's not just for Jess and the cerebral palsy population, or the population of, Paralympic athletes. It's going to be in general, and it's going to be a more mainstream thing, because I believe an athlete that has a physical limitation is 5 times the athlete of someone that calls himself an athlete.
Well, they're dealing with it every day, right? They're overcoming challenges every day, right? Yeah. So what are your thoughts around, if you have a studio, you have a box, you have a gym, like, what are your thoughts around how they start to think about this kind of thing? Like, where do they even start? What do they even do? Like, how do they start? How do you make it more accessible?
The process needs to be very thought out, because there's evil people in this world, and there's people who don't like others who are succeeding. And there's people who may look at something that Jess or another female or male are trying to do and may say, you know what? Well, no, I'm not going to support that. And there's people that are like me who'll be like, oh my God, let me put you on a platform. So you need to make sure that from a gym standpoint, I've always told Jess, anything we do, I'm more than happy to help out, but we got to do it in a collaborative effort where it's empowering, and it's not looking as if, hi, can you help? Hi, can you give me a handout? That's BS. And the minute someone turns around and says, like, if Jess wanted to approach 15 gym owners, if they turned around and send an email to their members saying, hey guys, we have this program, we'd love to know if you want to donate or contribute. There's evil people who may say, oh, look what they're trying to do. And there's also a big percentage of people who will say, that's amazing what they're trying to do.
I think there's more of them. I think there's more of them. For every one naysay, there's going to be 10 amazing people who want to grab their pom-poms and celebrate, right?
But just to soften those guys out with and put butter on their face, we want to make sure that any way we project
butter on their face. Bad visual.
Because there are people that whenever they see something, and I'm telling this from experience, I'm telling you this from me putting out emails to people that not have to do with Jess, but just have to do with supporting a cause, or either a client got really, really good results. And then I would hear, oh, well, I've done this before and she hasn't done this before. So people can be catty.
Yeah.
So I think for the gym owners to make it a bigger push and to involve this on a mainstream, it's got to be of telling the story. It's got to be making impact. It's got to be Jess or whomever from the organization letting people know that they are extremely excited to inject the whole universe with their story and their motivation, so they can get the average person to become elite. Okay. Right.
So
in CrossFit, Greg Glassman talks about the 3 types of people. There's the sick, the average, and the elite, right? And I tell my daughter that, and I tell my daughter anytime she's giving me attitude or she's crying or she's upset, I say to her, oh, really? Should I call Jess right now? Why don't we call Jess what Jess would do right now?
Jess.
And she will shut.
Jess, your phone must be ringing off a hook.
Yeah, I was gonna say Jess. Oh my goodness, I'm not sure whether that's a good use of Jess time.
Thing to do, because I tell people, even myself, when I'm having emotional breakdowns, professional breakdowns, because we're human. Yeah. I always think that, and I tell myself, because there's a picture of Jess on my wall in my office, and I'm like, Ma, if this girl's going to wake up today and she's going to have 15 things to challenge before I even brush my teeth, why am I sitting here contemplating? And then it makes me feel better. So we need more people to see Jess, hear Jess, not only Jess, but her community of people to feel the emotion. And once you prick someone's stomach and you attack their emotion, not their mind, but their emotion, they're going to say, you know what? I don't really have any problems, and happiness is a decision I'm going to make today.
So Jess, once we've made that connection, and gym owners or box owners or whatever that may look like, studio owners say, okay, I'd like to give this a go. I'd like to make my facility more accessible and build in programming. How do they do it? Like how do you coach them? What kinds of practical tools and consulting do you provide to help them bring more people? Because there's the practical side. How do they do it?
Yeah. So I was just going to add one quick thing to add to what Dimitri was saying. I think that I couldn't agree more with what all of you just said and what he said, and that it strongly resonates with people or with the gym when there is somebody that they have a connection to that has a physical limitation or another limitation, and otherwise it doesn't happen because there's no story behind it.
Right.
So I'll give you an example. When I was writing my book, I contemplated initially, do I get somebody to write it or do I write my own story? And I said, no, like right from the beginning, I was like, no, I want to write my own story because it is my own. Nobody who's going to sit down with me is going to be able to process my experience and translate my experience to everyone else in the way that I can. And so I wrote my own narrative because your narrative is your own. And I feel like with work, it resonates with people when it comes from you, which is why, like Dimitri will always say to me, people will listen to you when they hear your story and when they hear your passion for fitness and for Flex for Access. So what I would say needs to happen is that more people like myself and people that I work with need to be coming into the gym to talk about their journey and why they have this passion for fitness and how they do the things that they do in order to show coaches and others in the community who don't know how it's done.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
The storytelling, right?
Yeah. That's huge.
That's the key. And from a constructive protocol standpoint, when I liaise with companies and gyms and strength and conditioning coaches that I work with, I have a process where I send them forms. I get to know what their gym or studio or rehabilitation facility is like, what they're willing and able, in what capacity they're willing and able to support Flex for Access. And then we go from there, where I have criteria that the individuals have to meet, both physical and age demographic wise, as well as financial constraints, in order for them to receive the funding. And then when I consult with them in terms of the space and what they're willing and able to do with their clients, it's very client based and it's very dependent on the space that they work in.
Right.
Right. That's awesome. Well, you know what? It sounds like, a great partnership between the two of you. Jess,
It's inspiring.
You're an inspiration to us all, honestly. And if we can all, step forward in the way you do in walking through adversity and getting to the other side of it, we will all be stronger people. Your story is relatable to everybody. Thank you so much for sharing it. We encourage people to pick up your book, to check out Flex for Access.
Get the book today.
Get it today. I downloaded it on Kindle. It's instant. You can get it right away, or you can pick it up on Amazon or any other.
Or you can order the paperback on Amazon. I'm also going to be having a virtual book launch, which I know Dimitri and Tina, I believe you're going to be part of because of COVID. I can't unfortunately do it in person, but that's going to be on October 16th. And if people want to engage with Flex for Access, they can visit www.flexforaccess.ca to learn more about the organization and how they can participate on social media using the hashtag Flex for Access in flexing and training posts, as well as also collaborative opportunities. And they can reach out to me at flexforaccess@gmail.com.
Well, thank you to you both for making such a huge impact on our communities. Pure Motivation Fitness also has a really great blog. So if you want to check out any of the tips and stories that Dimitri's organization is posting, where do they go, Dimitri, to find that?
motivationfitness.com. Just go to the blog section. And if they want to learn more about body type training, we'll give them the information. There's a free ebook they can download.
Amazing.
Awesome.
That's awesome. Well, thanks for your time, everybody. We're looking
great
forward.
To meet you.
Yeah, it was great to have you on the line, and we're looking forward to getting into this book release party, and seeing more facilities opening up for everybody. So thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Cheers.